How's it going there, guys? It's nice to see you. In this video, I'm going to be performing a side-by-side comparison on Andromeda between two smart telescopes and my biggest, baddest, most expensive, fastest telescope. It's not going to be fair in any way, shape or form, but it's still something I wanted to do. It's going to be a bit of fun, and I hope that you enjoy seeing these telescopes compared. Now, what are we comparing? Well, let's dive straight into it. Someone asked as a question that was left on a video for me, could I compare the Dwarf Mini, the C-Star S30 Pro, and my main rig? And this video is the result of that. Over on the right, the C-Star S30. This is the best shot of Andromeda that I could manage with it on the given night. They all shot at the same time, same amount of time as well. The Dwarf Mini, this is the best shot I could manage. Again, just I've got these at this specific zoom to try to illustrate something for you as well in a moment. And the same thing for my main rig over on the left. And I think one of the things that's immediately going to stand out to many of you out there is you're probably thinking the same thing as me. The shot on the right actually looks like the best when viewed at this kind of zoom. And that's the power of framing, really. It looks aesthetically pleasing when framed, placed in that kind of position. When we start to zoom in and pan around this thing, it's gonna fall apart compared to the main rig over on the left. But it's really part of an important comparison to make, I think, is this. That if you aren't the type of person who's going to be panning around and zooming in and looking for interesting features, if you just want to take the shot for what it is, sometimes a smaller device is all that you're gonna need. Now, if I take a moment to try to compare to you the field of view difference between these telescopes. So the image on the right and the image on the left both use the same sensor, so it's an IMX585. The image in the middle from the Dwarf uses an IMX662, and it's a lot smaller sensor. So I do want to point out as well, this is one of the differences between the Dwarf and the C-Star that you pay for, of course. The Dwarf is a smaller, far more portable device, and I think the two can exist happily with one another. They have just slightly different purposes from one another. So, the Dwarf Mini, when size and packability is at an absolute premium for you, it can't be beat. But if you can afford that extra cost and extra size that goes with the C-Star, you do also get a lot more sensor as well. So if I just drag across and show you roughly, you can see the intersecting area right there. It's about the same, 150mm versus 160mm focal length, but you can see the grey area around the outside. That's all the extra sensor that you're getting with the C-Star S30 Pro over the Dwarf. So you can see a lot more of the night sky when these two devices pitted side by side, quite similar focal lengths. To do that same comparison with the 585 based main rig, I think I have to go to about 1:9 or something just to overlay these on top of one another and show you the size difference between them. You can see all the extra grey fogged out area that the C-Star offers over my main rig could sometimes be a lot of use depending on what you wanted to try and shoot. Andromeda is really off the cards unless I wanted to make a massive mosaic with my main rig. As you can see, it's not a satisfying framing at all for viewing this kind of view, I would say. Now, if we start to zoom in a little bit, apologies about my voice, by the way. I've still recovering from being really rather ill earlier this week, so it may crap out a few times. But if we start to zoom in anyway and perform a comparison and take a look at where the strengths and weaknesses lie, you can immediately start to see some of the differences. Now, one thing I want to take a moment to point out for you between the C-Star and the Dwarf in particular is the difference between, I'll come back to this comparison in a second, the difference between the auto outputs versus what you can edit yourself on the PC. So this is put together to illustrate this. So this on the left is what the C-Star S30 Pro can put out on its own. So this has been passed through the Magic Wand auto edit feature. And it's not bad. Do you know what I mean? It's not bad. A lot of the gradients have been tackled. The noise has been mostly tackled, arguably a bit too much. I think it starts to look just very slightly too smooth and slightly plastic. Even with the denoise tools, such as the wonderful NoiseXTerminator, I do prefer seeing a little bit of noise still left in the image. So that's one of the downsides. The other downside you can see probably immediately is the amount of difference in depth of stretch and available range of color in the shot. So between the two, it's far more colorful on the right. The stars are, much better managed. They're smaller in profile, tighter overall. It just looks better when you go into the effort of doing a PC-based edit on these things. But I did want to show you that if all you're ever going to do is view these things on the app, there is a huge difference between what the app outputs versus what is actually possible with that very same data over on the right. And the same thing goes for the dwarf. Again, same comparison, just side by side right there. You can see the vast difference in color and stretch that's been applied to these two. So the shot on the right I did, the shot on the left was the automatic feature in Stellar Studio. It's not done bad. I think it's probably done a better job than the C-Star does on its own. I will say that. So that's maybe one region where ZWO have a little bit of catching up to do, is there an on-device processing. But I think for many of us, we are probably going to do what I did and go through the process of editing the data on your own after the fact, because there's just quite a lot more to unlock and see. But anyway, back to the main comparison now. I've tried to highlight that point for you. This is just to say that the shots from the dwarf and the C-Star are the best that I could get them. It's not just what the kind of app crapped out. I did go to some effort to try and make these shots look attractive. So if we start to go and take a look around these images, like I sort of alluded to earlier, and we bring the zoom levels up on them all, you can probably start to see what I was talking about, where I said that the smart telescopes, they do begin to fall apart a little bit when you start to zoom in. So obviously I'm viewing these now at 2:1, 2:1 versus a 1:2 view to get them reasonably similar. But if we try to get them similar in a screen kind of scale sense, so let's pick a feature, perhaps I don't know, right down here, this region. To get these to match in terms of like field of view, I need to go into, I think, a 7:1 there. If we take a look at this asterism just there, that triangle with a couple of stars beneath, it's close. It's closely matched, so it's near enough that we're looking at the same region right there between them two. I mean, which one would you rather have? Obviously, if you're the type of person who's going to go poking around in your shots, I mean, like I am, let's face it, then yeah, a lot of the time it is going to be worth the extra money and extra effort to get the kind of shots that you can only really get with the big telescopes. But if we just zoom in, again, kind of same sort of region, if we can. So I've got them about the same kind of view right there. You can see that the C-Star is much the same. There's really not much to differentiate them between, because I'm just taking them so far beyond what really is part of the scope of design and usage for them. So, if, like, again, just to kind of hammer home that point, if you're the sort of person who wants to go poking around in these interesting regions and see what you can see, neither smart telescope of this particular ilk is gonna suit you, to be honest. That's just the way it is. Taking a look at another region, for example, I know there's a particularly interesting, let's say, region up here, this nebula area where you can zoom right in and start to see interesting stuff. It breaks down by about here, of course, on the Hyperstar. It still looks pretty good by here. I'll get these lined up for you now. So once again, all lined up. There's things to see in the main rig that you just, you're gonna have to be really imaginative. Not seeing much when the smart telescopes are zoomed in like this. I know this is unfair, and I know it's probably gonna annoy some people, but I'm not intending to. I just want to point out the reasons, why obviously smart telescopes aren't going to take over just yet for everything, but I think they are coming. It's probably safe to say. It depends on what your aims are and what you're wanting to try to shoot. Now, the big question is, quite literally, probably the $10,000 question or more, is would you rather pay for the shot on the left rather than the shot on the right, just for example? Many of us wouldn't, to be fair. So it really does boil down to who you are, what your budget is, and what your aims are as to whether a smart telescope is right for you. And also, I think it's fair to say that even if you do have a big almighty rig, you know, like the kind of thing I've got here and I'm using for this comparison. The two devices can coexist. Do you know what I mean? You can have your big telescope like I've got and still find time to use the smart telescopes like the Sea-Star. Sometimes I just want an easy shot. I know it's never going on the wall. I'm not even going to concern myself with it really, and that's kind of where the smart telescopes come in, because it's still fun. It still gets you doing astrophotography, and I think that's where they can happily exist in that space, unintended, for a good while, at least until the gap closes even further and we start to really begin to scratch our chins and go, what's the difference between these two shots? I do think if I had a smaller telescope to have compared this with, and my main rig, let's say, was you know, a 50mm refractor or something like that, or like my SQA55, for example, if I was using that all the time, I think this comparison would be pretty bloody frighteningly close, to be fair. But that wasn't what was asked for, and I am actually going to do another comparison like that, just to try to show you the difference between smart telescope versus, you know, discrete modular telescope of the same sort of size. So a more fair comparison than this one, this totally unfair comparison. But anyway, all the same, I hope that you've enjoyed this. Sorry for my voice throughout this one. I need to just go not talk now for a day or two and recover. But all the same, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've taken it in the spirit that it's offered, just a fun comparison. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And until then, look after yourselves. Thank you ever so much for your support. Hand on heart, I do truly mean that. And yeah, I'll catch you when I catch you. Until then, though, clear skies.